I could cut out any errors. Okay.
All right, anyone want to join us? Maybe at all? No? Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we're here at the Lago Academy with Mr. K, school sub, and a band member of Vesper Lake. Mr. K, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Kevin?
Good. So, first question, who are you?
My name is Dan Chris Jansen, and I'm 54 years old.
You can hold the mic.
Oh, cool. Awesome. I'm 54 years old. I'm married. I'm a musician. I do play in a band called Vesper Lake. I do other music projects as well. I have another project going right now. It's called the Fort Duo. On top of that, I have a son. He's 22. And besides playing music, I love to play tennis. I play probably 3 days a week. And I'm a Vespa scooter enthusiast. I ride scooters both locally and long distance. I only drive a car if I absolutely have to. That's a little bit about me.
All right, cool. Mr. K, do you have any pets?
I currently do not have a pet. And the last pet I had was a cat that lived forever. It lived like probably 19 years old. Probably lived 10 years longer than it probably should have, but we had a cat. Cat's name was Chet, and I love that cat. And but I don't plan on having any more pets, to be honest with you. It's my wife who's the cat lover, and luckily she just picked a cat that I really liked. And so anyway, so that's my pet history.
Okay, what music do you listen to, Mr. K?
Sure. So right now in my life, I listen to all types of music. Any given week, any given day, I might be listening to anything. If you went home and looked at my CD and LP bookcase, you'd find everything from punk to, say, country music from the 70s and 60s. I listen to a lot of jazz that's also like mainly from the 50s and 60s. You know what music I love is like 70s, kind of like post-punk music, bands like Television. I listen to a lot of kinds of music, and so that's to give you an idea. So if you came over to my house, you'd find a wide variety of music in my collection. Yeah.
What is your favorite CD or vinyl that you own?
Is this the same question as what I recommend?
I guess.
So that's a very suggestive question, obviously, and everybody would answer that question differently. So I think the best way to answer that question is I actually have two albums I want to mention that I discovered when I was your age. I was actually 16, but on the verge of being a senior in high school. And it is true, these two albums, it's true, they did change my life. And both of these albums were released simultaneously or roughly simultaneously off the same record label. And they were both double albums. And one is called Zen Arcade by Huskeroo. If you've ever heard of that, it's an amazing album. It goes everywhere from punk to pop to psychedelic. And that's the first album I heard that really got me. And then I got that album, and then I immediately got into another band called the Minutemen. And if you've ever heard of an album called Double Nickels on the Dime by the Minutemen, if you're interested in older music or you just want to hear something new and different, I would highly recommend that record. I used to think Zen Arcade was my favorite record of all time, and maybe sentimentally it might still be, but to be honest with you, I sometimes think that Double Nickels on the Dime is actually my favorite. It's always a toss-up. Those two albums have always been with me since I bought them. I will never, ever get rid of them. Yeah.
Have you seen Huskeroo live?
No, unfortunately, Huskeroo broke up probably a year after. Oh, excuse me. Should I repeat the answer?
No.
Okay, cool. So no, I didn't get to see them live. They broke up probably within about a year when I really had gotten into them. And so I never got to see them live. But I did see Bob Mould, who was a pivotal member of that band, I saw him play solo shows various times in the years after that. Yeah, that's the closest thing I got to huskeroo. Yeah.
What are the best bands you've seen live?
Oh man. Again, hugely subjective question. But honestly, the band that I got to see live, I saw them multiple times. For some reason, I just really liked them. Was a band called Fire Hose. And Fire Hose was actually two guys from the Minutemen after the guitar and singer from the Minutemen passed away. But the Fire Hose, I saw them a lot in my college years, in my early 20s. Loved Fire Hose. Just an amazing trio. Yeah.
What is the craziest experience you've had at a show?
So I saw this question last night, and I have one experience that really applies. It's slightly R-rated, but I'm going to try and answer it in a G-rated way because I do want to answer the question, but I just don't want to get in trouble. So about almost 20 years ago, I went to a show with my brother and my cousin, and what it was the remaining two members of the Minutemen playing as a duo. And we were so excited to go, and it was up in San Pedro, up by LA. That's where they were from. So we drove up there, and the show gets going. It's a great show. And we were right up front. So there was a stage that was probably up to our waists, and they were playing on the stage. And this woman, pretty inebriated. She somehow has slinked herself onto the stage, and she's laying out in front of us. Like there's probably four of us across, and she's just laying out in front of us on the stage. Okay, whatever. I'm not really paying all that much attention to her. She was kind of lame, to be honest with you, and I was really into the band. Well, at one point, there's a guy at my right that I don't know. My brother's right here, and there's this guy right here. And this guy looks down at her. He's got a beer in his hand. And he goes, "Hey, can I pour some beer on your..." And he references to her chest area. You can use your imagination. She immediately goes, "Oh, sure." And she just drops her top.
Damn.
And the guy pours beer on her. And then they like make out for like 2 minutes.
Oh, just met?
Yeah.
They
yeah.
were complete strangers?
Yeah, complete strangers.
That's so weird.
Kind of a funny side note. Once that happens, he pours a beer and then they start making out. My cousin turns to me and kind of as a joke, he goes, "Wow, I didn't know it was that easy." So I hope I don't get in trouble telling that story.
No, it's okay,
but that's a story I've always remembered. Yeah, totally.
Mr. K, how did you become a substitute teacher?
So I used to be a full-time teacher. I taught for 9 years. I taught middle school down in San Diego. And then I left teaching. And I spent 16 years just in the corporate office environment, climbing the ladder. And while I was doing that, I was missing teaching, but at the same time, I didn't really want to be a full-time teacher again. It's incredibly stressful to be a full-time teacher. It's way more stressful than any other profession I've ever had. And but I was missing the classroom environment, hanging out with kids. And so about 12 years ago, I literally started to save money so that a day would come when I would have a large enough nest egg so that I can essentially afford to be a substitute teacher and just work the school year. And so that is how I did it. And I started subbing full-time again just last year. It was about a year ago to this day, around this time, when I started coming to Del Lago quite a bit. So that's how I got back into it. And I intend to remain a sub for as long as I keep working. I'm calling this my soft retirement, where I'm not retired, but I don't need to earn X amount of money anymore. Okay, so there we go.
What did you used to teach when you were a teacher?
I taught middle school. I taught language arts, and then I taught social science, 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
Yep.
Adding on to that, what is the craziest experience you've had as a teacher?
That's a good one. I don't know. I'm thinking here, and I'm drawing a blank. Gonna be honest with you, I can't think of anything super gnarly crazy I can think of off the top of my head. So if I think of something, I'll let you know.
All right.
Cool.
So earlier we mentioned that you're in a band, Vesper Lake, and the other one, which was called.
I'm just starting a new project called the Fort Duo.
Oh, okay. What do you do in both of those bands?
So in both those bands, I'm essentially a guitar player and singer-songwriter. So with the Fort Duo, I'm writing all the songs. With Vesper Lake, I write, roughly the half the songs. Vesper Lake used to be another band called Black Oak Hymnal. I wrote the vast majority of that music, but when a partner joined us named Russ, he started writing songs too, and Russ is now my primary partner in Vesper Lake. And so Russ also writes a lot of songs too. He's a great songwriter also. So in Vesper Lake, I write at least half the music, sing, play guitar, and I also play a little harmonica when it applies. So sometimes I got the harmonica on that thing in front of me. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. So shout out Vesper Lake. Shout out Fort Duo. Okay. Where did the name Vesper Lake and Fort Duo come from?
So for Vesper Lake, I always like that word Vesper. It kind of means like sort of an outdoor evening prayer service or something. It just sounds like a reverential word. I always kind of liked it. And my music, if you ever do go find my music, a lot of my lyrics are dark and haunting. And to me, an image of a lake at night is always kind of spooky to me. So it's just kind of a combination of, something that kind of evokes maybe some spirituality, but also some darkness, which is where my lyrics tend to dwell, to be honest with you. As far as the Fort Duo goes, actually, it's a cool one. The Fort Duo is me and a friend of mine that I've known since high school. And he and I ran our first punk bands together in high school. And where we practiced was in a fort in his backyard.
Oh.
We had a fort in his backyard. He had a fort. And he had a drum kit back there and a little Fender amp and a couple of crappy guitars. And so we basically became our first band called Gilligan Bus in this fort. Well, now here we are, 54 years old, and we just did a recording project where the drummer from that first band, an old friend of mine, we did this project together, and it just seemed appropriate to call ourselves the Fort Duo, coming from that fort from so long ago.
Yeah. Do you play any shows with Vesper Lake and Fort Duo?
We don't play as many shows like in traditional venues as we used to, and that's just out of choice. I've kind of been there, done that, and we still do on occasion. Last summer we did a little tour of Utah, of all places, which is actually a great place to go play, and we might go play in Utah again this summer. We don't have any local shows planned at any specific venues. One thing that we've explored as Vesper Lake that is actually more gratifying to me is doing things like home shows. I think home shows are a lot of fun. They're a lot more intimate and a lot more meaningful because typically all the people there are there for music. The Fort Duo has mainly been a recording project so far, but we did do one house show.
Oh.
And that was really neat. We played for some friends and family. It was really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Thoughts on the current punk scene or just the scene in general?
Sure. So to be honest with you, I'm not very attached to the current scene. I don't really know. I don't go to a lot of shows right now. So my thoughts are this. One, between your school and San Pasqual and Escondido High, I've met some punk kids. They all know me by my tattoo.
Yeah.
And so one thing that's been really fun for me is a lot of kids are showing me videos of shows that they're going to. And a lot of them are just like grassroots level shows that are played in very small venues, garages or whatever. I love that because to me that's the true spirit of it, is just creating your own show, creating your own environment. And I'm glad to see that there are some kids out there still doing that, because frankly, I didn't know if there were. So I'm really glad to see that. One thing that got my attention is typically when a student approaches me and asks me if I have a black flag tattoo and they want to talk about music, one thing I've noticed is proportionately way more of them are girls. And that's probably different than when I was your age. I would say when I was your age, punkers were mainly guys with a few girls kind of thrown in the mix, but for the most part, it's a very guy atmosphere. And I'm encouraged by the fact that so many more girls are into interesting alternative music than seemed to be when I was your age. Yeah, totally.
What is some advice you would give to young people?
About music or?
Just in general.
I think the advice I would give to someone like you, you're a senior in high school, I would say something I was not good at when I was your age and not good at for a long time is I really encourage you to listen to yourself. Don't fall for all of the messages out there that are telling you that there's one path to success, one path to a good job, one path to good music, or what have you. Listen to yourself. There are a million pathways to happiness and prosperity. And I only became much more happier in my life when I stopped giving in to all of the external messages that are out there and started just listening to myself and what is it that I really want? What is it that I really need? What's healthiest for me? So don't forget to listen to yourself. Don't be afraid to listen to yourself.
Okay, so that was our last question. Is there anything you would like to add?
I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the attention. I appreciate the fact that you care about music. I'm really encouraged by kids like you, kids like Giselle over here, people that are into music, looking for culture and art and stimulation in their life that's not just material and money and everything else. Those things will not make you happy in the end. It's all of the other things that you do for happiness and joy. And I'm glad to see that there are a lot of kids that are still really into music. So thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so before we go, I actually have a gift for you.
Oh no.
Okay. It is a Black Flag tote bag.
Oh my
Here you go. This is for you.
gosh, I love this. No, where'd you get this thing, man?
We had a student at their internship make it for you.
No, for me?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, you need to find her and come bring her to me sometime.
Yeah.
I'm going to be subbing in this class next month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I got a couple of dates in this month. So you need to bring her by.
Yeah.
Or bring her to me so I can thank her for this. I will be using this. This is not a BS gift. This is not a BS thank you. I really am going to use this thing. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So much to you and Annette. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This is so awesome. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Aww. So that was our interview with Mr. K.
Mhm.
Shout out Vesper Lake, shout out Fort Duo, and Mr. K. Keep on rocking in the free world.
Oh, I definitely will. I love that album. I had that album in college.
Yeah?
Neil Young. Yeah, I had it when I was in college. I listened to it a lot. Yeah, it's a great album. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.